Hello, Keith Jarvis here with MKP USA Support Services and a video orientation for area administrators of MKP USA. I hope this video will be useful. It's going to be a high altitude look at what it is to be an area administrator and where to get support and resources, kind of to teach you how to fish a bit. Um, what it's not going to be is a detailed training in the use of MKP Connect or its systems. It's not going to be a lot of information about structure of MKP USA. And I'm probably not going to go into a lot of detail about any one of the topics that I show you herein, because there's probably a video about that topic on the page that I'll reference or one already in the works. So I'm going to keep this at a pretty high altitude summary level and allow you to take advantage of other resources and to get in contact with me. So what is going to be in this video is introducing you to me as your primary liaison and how to get direct live support from me, how to know who else in support services can provide you help on other specific topics, where to get the basic area and area administrator resource pages, help answer who you are responsible to and what you're responsible for, how you might be delegating and coordinating activity within your area, some key communications between yourself and MKP USA and within your area communications, basics about forms and reports, advanced system privileges, how to get them, what they provide you, and then a little touch on some finance topics, some stuff about community chartering and community building, and a little touch on something called holacracy. So that's a lot of stuff, and let's get right to it. I am in a role called area administration, among other other administrative topics, and so I am on point for interacting with area administrators. I should be your primary liaison. Doesn't mean you can't go to others, but if it's about administration, I'm probably going to have the support or the answer that you're looking for. So I want you to know how to get in touch with me. And what I've provided on this slide is sort of a gradation to help you determine, based on the urgency of your support need, what route to go to when it comes to getting in touch with me. So if you are really urgently needing support from me, I believe the best method to get me during the weekday or even weekday evenings or weekends is probably Skype. I have Skype on all of my machines all the time. And even if I'm busy in another meeting or on another call, I'll see someone text and ask if you could get a few minutes of my time. And like I said, if I'm busy, I'll tell you, hey, not right this minute. How about at the top of the hour? Or how about 10 minutes from now? And that's probably the most direct, urgent support means to get me. So here's my profile. You can find anyone in Connect under Find New Warrior. And you can also, I'll show you how to get to the area administrator resource page in a minute. You can also get to my profile right here, Keith Jarvis link. And my Skype address, as well as the 800 number with my extension and my work email, are right here in my profile. Jarvis Jog is my Skype ID, and if you add me, I'll add you as a contact. And then, like I said, you can just text me, and even if I'm busy right at that moment, I see that flashing orange window pop up, and I'll say, yes, hey, let's talk in 15 minutes. And that's a good way to get me for urgent support during the day in particular. If it's slightly less urgent, there's something else I've set up called You Can Book Me. and it interacts with my schedule and my calendar, my work calendar. And that is also accessible from the Area Administrator page. Again, I'll show you how to get here in a moment. Um, right here, I'm sorry, right here, Book Jarvis One-on-One. It's also linked in the signature line of every email that I send from my work address, Book Jarvis. And that's this tool. This is also a free tool. You can book.me. There are subscription levels as well. I use a free level that you can find someone's openings in their calendar. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not doing anything right at all. Then it just means that I'm probably working at task lists or projects, support tickets, and the like. And so you can see I'm filming this on the 25th. So most of today is already blocked out. But that's not all that common. There's often that you can find some slots same day to get me. And this tool will allow you to book me in either a 15 or 30-minute slot. And when you sign up, you can identify if you want to use Skype or if you want to use telephone. I also have a private Zoom that is the free level that I can take 45-minute calls. And so it's even if it's not just you, if you want to bring, say, your training coordinator or your registrar or your financial coordinator and have a small team working session, that's perfectly fine for this tool. I even have colleagues that book me using this for short meetings during the week. So yeah, in the footer, the signature line of my emails, and right here from the admin resource page, book me. If it is even less urgent, once a week I have a drop-in office hours on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, where I hold a Zoom room open, and people will just drop in, first come, first served, get your question or questions answered, and I have people show up with a small list of things, and a lot of times if they're small or quick, I can do those changes for you in the moment. And if they're a little more complex, I'll record a ticket for myself to get back to. But you can ask for what it is, and I'll say, oh yeah, I can handle that, and I get it set up, right? And some people will leave as soon as they have their thing handled, or they'll hang around and see what other people bring and ask and how they get support. So Monday office hours, and that also is found in the footer of my emails. And right here, office hours, there's a link there that provides the Zoom room data and how the office hour works. So feel free to take advantage of that for the slightly less urgent topics. I prefer all of that to email because email can get backlogged, and this is a much more direct engagement and a way to get your needs met. So if there is, again, perhaps not urgency, but you want to take advantage of a unique opportunity, twice a month we have group calls for area administrators. And that's the first and third Wednesday of the month at noon Eastern Time. And what that is that you're taking advantage of getting tactical or operational questions answered and perhaps getting advice from your peers, right? So you might be getting best practices or suggestions on how to approach an issue or a topic that you're facing in your area, what they have done about similar situations. So that's a really unique and a great opportunity twice a month. Occasionally we'll have a brief presentation from someone else in support services. Recently we've had finance come in and talk about deposits and refunds. We've had marketing come in and talk about the Sunday packets of New Warrior Training Adventures. So there is an automated reminder for that meeting that goes out to the Area Administrator V group, and anyone is welcome to attend. So please make sure you're signed up to the V group. I have more on that in a minute. and take advantage of this twice a month opportunity to hear area administrators bring their topics to get addressed, and to bring yours and to have support from your peers. One other way that you can get support from me, but also technical support, is to use our support ticket system. By sending an email to help@mkp.org, a ticket is opened in a support ticket system. If you're familiar with those things like Zendesk or other support desk type of software, well, we have one set up. And the IT team fields the tickets, and they'll triage it and will sometimes assign it. If it's not a technical or functional support, if it's more about administration data, it gets assigned to me. Or if it's more about finances, it may get assigned to Finance Director Deb Mauger. So you can additionally get support by emailing help@mkp.org. And one of the benefits from using the support ticket system is that you get a running thread inside the ticket system, and that if there are questions about your request for help, they get built into the thread, and then you get a notification when the ticket is closed. So that's another useful thing, because sometimes we think about, hey, did I ever tell Fred or Sam that I handled his issue? This ticket support system really helps us make sure to let the person know that it got handled. So technical support in particular, but other support can go to help@mkp.org, and it will be triaged by IT and sometimes assigned to other support services individuals. So now twice I've referenced this page in MKP Connect, and I want to show you that page and a couple other items. Again, this isn't going to be a detailed training in MKP Connect, but the ability to find your primary starting block, I think, is going to be really useful. So there's an area page, the area admin page, and something called Who to Ask that I hinted at a moment ago about other support services personnel and their specific support on areas and topics. So let's go to Connect, and again, here's my profile. And what you may have noticed over the past couple of years, that there's this gray bar that has appeared underneath the navigation menu. And there's links in this gray bar, tabs, that take you to your summary profile, your full profile. If you are part of a chartered community in MKPUSA, there's a page for that. There's your area page, and all of this data is drawn from settings in your profile, so that if you are in that area or affiliated with that area, that's the link that will be visible here. You won't see Memphis unless you are with the Memphis area. And last but not least, here is the region page, the United States, MKPUSA. And by clicking on that, it will open up the MKPUSA page, which has some board contacts and council contacts, a lot of other great links in the sidebar, like the policy directory, information directory, org charts, a bunch of cool tools and calendar links in the sidebar. But I'm going to point you to three things: the Who to Ask, I'm going to open one tab there, area, and the area administrator, which is I already have open. So Who to Ask. Who to Ask will give you at the top of the page some very general topics like public relations, branding, and marketing, and who in support services has responsibility on those general issues. But even more valuable, I think, is the embedded spreadsheet along the bottom portion, and how it provides you the name of the individual on much more granular and specific topics, such as who to get in touch with regarding gateway trainings, where to find support regarding Ron Herring Awards, right? And all sorts of additional very detailed topic areas, who to go to, who is the individual in support services who has responsibility on that topic. There are tabs along the bottom. The first tab is this general topics tab, and the second is about groups and constituencies, committees, that who is the primary liaison in support services for, say, the nominating committee or the curriculum committee, right? The third tab is systems, vendors, and technology. You might need to know who is the right person to go to regarding Vistaprint. Well, it's Boysen. So this is another very useful tool to provide you with an idea of who the individual in support services can provide support regarding very specific topics. The last tab here is about specific email list support. So topics, groups, systems, vendors, and email list coverage right here on who to ask. Now, if you don't know who to ask, you can still come to me. I'm your primary liaison, and I'll know if it's something that is a little bit beyond my scope, or if there's someone else who has responsibility, authority about that I should guide you towards, and I'll do that. That's part of my job. So if you aren't sure and you don't have time to look through this document, feel free to still come to me and ask who to talk to about your topic. And I'll know based on the frequency with which I review the areas of responsibility on who to guide you towards. But who to ask is a great tool to learn to fish with yourself. The area page, again, I showed you the area link here, is really useful because it describes not just the area administrator roles, but role descriptions for the 5 primary roles in areas: the steward, the administrator, the financial coordinator, the iGroup coordinator, and the web or IT coordinator. And there are resource page for each one of those, as well as role definitions. Also on this page you can find something called the Who Decides Matrix, which is a tool that's put together that kind of describes how different areas divvy up their responsibilities. That may be useful to you. And some other resources on this page that you might find valuable. But I believe that for most area administrators, this is the starting block. Again, let me show you how I got there. It was US page, area admin, and then here I am. And you might want to bookmark this page, because on this page there is pretty much the bulk of the things that you may need to reference as an area administrator. There are links to the area agreement and area right responsibilities, as well as a useful tool called the Notification Reporting Summary. It's sort of a cheat sheet on how far in advance MKPUSA has to be informed about this or that thing. There's links here in the sidebar that I'll reference in a moment, but specifically there is the data about that twice monthly area admin meeting, how to get in contact with me directly through my profile and contact information, or the office hour, or booking me one-on-one. Here in the main body of the page you'll see the role definition of an area administrator. And this is a kind of generalized description about what we believe the area administrator role is about, and encourage you to read that at your pace and to refer to that as useful. So what is an area administrator? You know, there is that role definition, but to simplify it in my terms, I believe the area administrator's primary function is to serve as a conduit and communicator of key operational data between the area and the region and the area. Now remember that we're all the same organization, right? There's really not a we, they that exists here. It's just different parts of the same organization. I like to think of it as locally the area and centrally or in the middle, as the region, kind of like the sun and planets around. That's all part of the same solar system. Or you can pick other metaphors that may help you kind of get a grip that there's not a we they, where the centers used to be independently incorporated. Um, Even then, we had a great deal of interreliance and coordination that had to occur between those legal entities. But now we're one legal entity, and it's even more critical that this operational information, right, gets exchanged efficiently. We're have limited resources both in the middle part of the organization and in the local parts of the organization. So, in order to take advantage of what we have available, we need to be able to rely on each other. So, I've had administrators come in to their role and ask me who they reported to. And it's true that there are a couple of employee area administrators, and then in those instances, there are some employee relations, kind of HR things that have to be taken into consideration because MKPUSA is the employer of record. And so there are some responsibilities that go along with that about hire fire, compensation, performance review, all of that stuff that is part of the employee relations policies. Um, and you might have, though, as a volunteer, even a very different structure from area to area. There's a variation. Some have very rigid or structured bylaws. Some have much more fluid and flexible local structures where they just kind of divvy up the responsibilities based on the skills and talents of the men that are serving at that time. What I can tell you is that as far as my engagement with other area administrators, it really doesn't matter to me whether you're a volunteer or one of the employees. I don't perceive of having any sort of oversight or supervision in the way that is kind of traditionally hierarchical. What the region does have of area administrators is expectations. We do have some basic expectations of area administrators, and that's spelled out in that role definition, which you can read again here, and in the area agreement and some of these other sub documents from there, the rights and responsibilities and the notification and reporting that describes some of the policy procedure stuff that has to be standardized to some extent to prevent it from being chaos and to take advantage of what limited resources we do have. An example of that is that, some areas have really an abundance of men that serve locally, and they may have somebody that is responsible as a training coordinator or a training registrar and a weekend coordinator, and they have subdivided out that which used to be the old center director job. Well, I don't know that that's going to be true from area to area, that you have all of that. And the smaller areas might have just one person that's doing all of that. But the central organization, the central administrator, really has a very limited amount of bandwidth to be able to support maybe a half dozen different people at this area and one person at that area, and 3 people over here and 2 people over there and 4 over there. Now, what the region does expect is that the area administrator, for example, with training reports, is not that the area administrator has to be the one that prepares the report. If you've got somebody who's either a one-time NWTA coordinator or who does that for the duration of a year, allow that person to prepare the report, but the area administrator collects it, right? Reviews it for accuracy and then sends it in. because it's easier for MKPUSA to support one individual to understand what the policies and procedures are and that they're using the current forms than that many other additional people. So that's an example of how the region does have expectations of the administrators, but we're not going to, kind of top down dictate, because that's never really been part of the game anyway. So yeah, that's what an area administrator is. And what I want to move on to next is making sure that you get plugged into key communications. Now, I referenced before that there is an area administrator V group, and that's referenced right here. There's a link to that group. Frankly, a lot of the time, I don't know when there's a new area administrator. When that happens, whether someone changes their role mid-year, or that one area starts their terms of service at one time in the year and another at another time in the year. I'll often find out that there's a new administrator a couple of months in, and that person has kind of been feeling unsupported. Perhaps his predecessor wasn't able to mentor him during the transition, or let him know that I was available. That's a lot of what this video is about as well. But what I want to make sure is that very early on, as soon as I find out that the area administrator gets subscribed to this V group, because that V group does have meeting reminders, but that's also where important information gets sent out, updates about how this or that important thing is going in our circle or in our organization. Any special announcements or changes in our processes or policies will get sent to that list. This is not a lot of volume, so it's not like a talk list or a chat list where there's sometimes a lot of debate about stuff. It's really just an information exchange, and it's periodic, but there will be some bigger reminders about the big due dates and deadlines, especially when it comes time for the annual submission of NWTA data. So it's critical for you as an area administrator to get subscribed to that V group. You can sign up yourself through that link. It's a open join V group, or ask me to help you get subscribed, and I'll be glad to do that. Also, I want very much to urge you to get set up, understand, and become a subscriber and administrator of all your area notification V group. Now, that is also, there's a page about notification V groups and what they are and how they work. There are 5 such groups that get sent automatic notifications from the systems when an inquiry comes in, when an NWTA participant registration comes in, when an NWTA staff application comes in, when an event registration, we say event because this one group uses both next level trainings and other upcoming events that might be handled through our system for your area. A lot of areas have a summer gathering or a constituency gathering, community events. If we have set it up for you, and I'll show you how to make us set it up for you, the notifications will come through that group for trainings and events. And then there's one for payments as well. So it's really important, especially if you came in mid-year, to get set up for these. A lot of times if it happens at the beginning of the year, I'll just walk through these groups and see if you are set up, but very important request. And you can ask me to do it, you could put in a support ticket. It doesn't matter, it's just that you really need to understand the notification V groups, I believe, and to be set up as administrator of those V groups so that you can help others in your area who need to get those communications get subscribed, right? Because you might have an event registrar for your ST1 and might not be handling that yourself, but by being able to locally manage who gets those notifications, it has saved a lot of time for both the local and central administrative personnel. So notification V groups, very important. And that's about the communications between the region and the area, right? There's also some communications within your area that you probably want to get plugged into as administrator. Um, Probably the easiest to think of are your area V groups that are like a talk list or a chat list, and an info group or an announcement group that just kind of sends announcement only, right, and not dialogue. Important for you to become an administrator of those groups. Also, if you have an area stewardship council or committee or council list, sometimes you would need to become the administrator of that list as well. Depending upon how elaborate your area structure is, you might have some constituency group lists that you could serve as the administrator for. That sort of thing. It is really useful to have some mentoring from your predecessor to get an understanding of how kind of autonomous your local constituencies have been, and if they self-manage their V groups or if they count on the area administrator to help them do so. Also, all of the training groups. Now, a lot of people might not understand that just because it's an information page in MKP Connect also makes it a V group, right? So there is a staff V group, an MOS, and a new brother V group for every NWTA. And with the administrative privilege on those V groups come some advanced system privileges that I'll talk about shortly. The same thing is true for next level trainings. If you have an LT1 in your V group, I'm sorry, an LT1 in your area, if you become the administrator of that V group, you will have some additional functionalities provided to you for participant administration. So if you've come in mid-year or there's one already set up that you are not administrator for, you can ask me to do it and I can do it very quickly. You can also put in a help ticket and IT can set you up for those. And some more coming shortly about training and those advanced system privileges. So more back to your basic functionality as area administrator. What is it that you're supposed to do and how do you do it? Well, I've already kind of described this communication between the local part of the organization and the middle part of the organization. Essentially, what the middle part wants is for you to tell us things. You to tell us things before they happen, and sometimes that's well before, like the NWTAs for the following year, and we'll tell you how to do that. And then sometimes it's just a little bit before it happens. With next level trainings right now, there's just a 60-day advance notice that we need to receive in order to be able to set up your registration and payment. So it's getting us that information in advance. And then after, we need to receive information about that same stuff, and that comes in the form of rosters and reports, right? And more about that here in just a second. Locally, I think that you will probably need to get data, sometimes information from MKP USA, the region, and get it to the right local men. Sometimes that might be trying to make sure that your iGroup coordinator knows about the upcoming iGroup conference, right? And whether he's going to be able to register or needs to find a substitute to register. The same thing for other gatherings, constituency gatherings, helping to pass that information from MKP USA to the right individuals. And sometimes that involves changes in policy or procedure, letting either an individual or a group or a committee or everyone in the area know about the change. So that again is being a bit of a communication conduit between the parts of the organization. And one of the key ways that you as administrator provide the information to the middle part is through using forms and reports. I know that's boring. It's the clerk work of the 21st century, right? Is that we receive this information in electronic paperwork instead of old style paperwork or faxes or print. So let me show you how to get to the vast majority of the forms and reports that you're going to need. Again, at the Area Administrator resource page, this link is where the very first link under the information block is called Notify, Update, Trainings, and Events. And this page has its own how-to video right here at the top, so I won't go into a great amount of detail on how it works. But essentially, this form is used when any time that you need to tell us about a new training or event in your area, or to make changes to an existing training or event that is already in our system. And those changes could be anything from, well, a cancellation to a change in its date, location, or facility. Now, as the video here will tell you, there are a couple of different individuals that receive the entries from this based on their role and what responsibilities they have. So, and the form is smart or smart-ish in that it will, based on what some entries on one page will be, it will ask you different questions on the following page. So it should be able to collect all of the data that we need about that training or event in order to set up, for example, to set up the registration and payment for your next level training. So this is probably where you will enter a great deal of information in your term as area administrator. Again, notify, update, trainings, and events. I will show you there's another shortcut to that same thing under the training event menu, notify, update. But I've got that here. There's some redundancy in our navigation. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for administrators to get the things that they need in one spot. So notify, update, training, and event, gotta have it, gotta use it. Very important. The rest of forms and reports that you are likely going to need in your tenure are all here. Forms and reports. And again, there are a couple of different paths to this same page. You can get it from the information directory. You can search forms in the upper right, the white box at the upper right of MKP Connect. But the links will take you to this what form, what purpose page. And regardless of the form update process annually or even during mid-year, this will always be where to go. If there are changes in the way that the forms work, they will be changed here. If there are updates in individual forms and reports on the subpages, it will be changed on those subpages. So all you'll need to remember is that by going to forms and reports, it will take you to the place where all the current forms are. And by looking at this little table on the cross section here, you should be able to pretty much identify what it is that you're needing. If this is a next level training, this is the release that you would use for participants and staff. And that same next level training, this is the report that you would use. Each one of these document pages has their own how-to video. So you can learn about the preparation of that document as well as download the most recent version always on the subpages. So Area Administrator, Form and Report takes you to the what form, what purpose. Navigate here, find what it is, Unified Release for staff, and that page will have a video about how to prepare the release form and how to use it and how to get it signed and stored. So there it is, forms and reports. Before documents, release forms. After documents, reports. Okay, a brief update to this technology section. We're going to splice it right in. So as an area administrator, you're going to need to have some handle on how the technology works and to be able to access resources to get trained and support in using the technology. So the first part that we want to make sure that you are aware of is that there is a separate account in MKP Connect for each area to use as area administrator. Now, you'll still be able to access through your own individual account and go back and forth between the two, but the area administrator account will come with some expanded permissions regarding ability to edit area work on the area center edit team. You can edit users in your area. You can help them reset their passwords. You can help them with their subscriptions. It comes with iGroup coordinator privileges that enable you to edit iGroups to some extent, helping them with their subscriptions and members and resetting their iGroup rep perhaps. And of course, this area administrator account will come pre-assigned as administrator of your area's trainings and groups. Particular, you'll be able to receive training by the IT team in how to utilize the staff administration tools for NWTAs and the very similar participant administration tools, including the NWTA prospect tool, how to move individuals off of your training into the prospect pool and vice versa. So that's going to be very important for you to get access to this account and then be able to access the training and support that the IT team can help you with. At any time that you need help with this sort of stuff, you can email help@mkp.org and it opens a support ticket. Now, the other half of getting help in technology is that now these new area administrator accounts, they are linked to a Google account that we have established inside our Google for Business. It's Google for Nonprofits inside our configuration of Google. And that by being linked together, you will be able to send and receive email from this account if you wish to, separate from your own individual email address. That's really useful when it comes to if you want to send out broadcast messages. Perhaps you have an information or announcement group. But this account also is the owner of the area's calendar, its file storage or Google Drive. It does have email service, and we've recently enabled Google Voice to enable you to have a centralized phone number for your area and a free phone number and voicemail that comes with Google Voice. So in order to get access to that, we do ask you to complete a responsible use agreement. And so once you have done so, we also have right now a volunteer who is assisting us and can be contacted at googleapps@mkpusa.org. And I will, of course, always be able to provide additional support as a backup to that volunteer coordinator. So, right, we've got the MKP Connect account and its linked Google account and the services that it provides. Now, just one moment to help you differentiate a little bit of the information from the information systems. You know, most of the people on our teams, if you go to them for help and they're not the person, they will help you find the right person. But it might help you just a little bit to conceptualize some of this way. That when you're trying to get the information right, the data right, there's some change in your dates or locations, you need help with vGroup data, that's all administration. But if you need help with the functionality, training in the use of the system, and how it works, or you're having a breakdown or a problem with some functionality, that's IT. And most easily getting help by emailing help@mkp.org, which opens a support ticket in a system that has multiple team members that see material that come in here and then will help you to get it resolved and to kind of have a breadcrumb of each support ticket until it gets closed. So when you need some functionality help, it's IT, and if it's just the data, the information that's listed, that's administration, and that's typically me. So there is on the area administrator page in that block a page about the Google Apps team right here that describes a little bit of how it works and has a brief agreement that we ask individuals that are granted this access to agree to specific responsible use about the calendars and file storage, as well as the single email address that comes along with your area's Google Apps account. But I think that most of the areas already have this set up. So it may simply be you getting the agreement completed, and that way I can help you get access to the existing Google Apps account for your area. Some of the areas have the access but haven't quite fleshed out or begun to use the calendar or file storage. So I'm happy to help train and support in that as well. But I am the primary liaison. I fill one of the roles called Google Administrator. So I have that responsibility. A note about the finance team. So also on the area administrator page is a link to the basic finance page. Please explore any of these links at your own leisure. I will just mention that we have a really effective finance team. Our finance director Deb Malger and finance manager Trevor Day can support you in any of a myriad of topics with finance, whether it's preparing your annual budget, which is something that the area administrator does have some responsibility to become involved in, or if it's helping to prepare per event budgets that aren't captured in your annual budget. Perhaps it's an additional training that you're adding during the course of the year. Maybe you need some help getting deposits for your site, your facility, the PEX cards, expense reimbursements, refunds, or getting credentials to the financial information. All of that is provided by the finance team. And again, I think that you will find they have some, sorry, I meant to open this. They have their own monthly meeting. Your area financial coordinator will exceptionally benefit from actively participating in this and engaging directly with Deb and Trevor. There are a lot of resources on the finance page, but please take advantage of the finance team and their professionalism. Communities. Again, there is a community page here, and you might want to look at this in terms of helping you understand the community model that came about after unification. And help in figuring out how to work with your existing chartered communities, or if you want to help a new community in your area get chartered. Information on that page, as well as the primary liaison, Dan Baldwin, serves the role called community support, among others. And he can also help you, he and his team can help you get men involved and keep them involved. Just general engagement with individuals in your community. He can help recommend strategies for that. So I would definitely recommend that you consider exploring that community page at any time that you need help about communities to engage with Dan. Yearly planning is a new item in our resource page, and it's a useful tool that was brought up by one of the other area administrators, and it will provide you a pretty high altitude look at what part of the year you're in and what sort of things you might need to be thinking about, so that you are not caught unaware or surprised by some responsibility that comes up upon you. And some of those things like the annual NWTA data submission, when to make sure if your LKS representative is going to the LKS gathering and information like that. It's very useful. One quick tip that I got from another area administrator is that it might be useful for you to go ahead and set a reminder on your own calendar regarding important deadlines. Maybe it's pre-training reminders like the NWTA checklist being due 2 weeks prior to the Thursday, or that the report and roster is due Tuesday afternoon, 48 hours after the completion of the event. Or maybe it's not just about related to one training, but that annual data entry that if you want to take advantage of the annual planner or to calendar for yourself when you need to engage with your local leader body to help make some final decisions on dates and locations so that you can submit that on time. Could be a really useful tip for you. Last but not least, I just want to mention something called Holacracy. You may have heard this discussed either at the Area Center Council or at different constituencies in the last year or two, or read about it in the MKPUSA check-in. And I want to talk to you just briefly about how it might affect you. So it's my belief, and I energize two key roles with Holacracy. I'm the Holacracy Study Coordinator, and I'm a Holacracy Coach within MKPUSA. And it's my opinion that the Holacracy thing is likely to never really become an expectation at the area level. Okay? So what that means is that it is unlikely, and I will strongly recommend against anything that seems to be like encouraging an area to use Holacracy to make its decisions about what it's doing, right? Or the roles or the individuals within that area, the admin and the coordinators. But what is true is that the operational part of MKPUSA does use this thing called Holacracy. And it is a rigorous set of rules. There's a constitution and a high learning curve and a sizable amount of overhead just to run Holacracy. But what it does allow us to do within the organization is make very adaptive decisions in the moment based on the person who has the authority to decide about this or about that, and to take lean, agile actions about how to fulfill our organizational purpose. If you want to learn about Holacracy, we have total transparency in MKPUSA about this. You can go to the Holacracy study page. You can also, on that USA page, see our Holacracy, that's the link to Holacracy study that I just opened, and that describes our self-paced e-learning course that I put together, as well as a great deal of other basic information. And you can see that there is a link here to the active governance records of the part of the organization that uses Holacracy. And here you can see that there's support services and operational support and curriculum development and our liaisons with the iGroup Council and Young Warriors, for example. So feel free to look at this or to learn more if you want to, but I don't believe that you will ever have to learn this as an area administrator. If you come sometime to volunteer in the central or the operational part of the organization, you might need to learn a bit about Holacracy. And in the meantime, you might be exposed to something called a tactical meeting, which is one small sliver of Holacracy that is really just a meeting format that helps to provide an efficient work meeting. But that's not the whole thing. Don't think that's Holacracy if you take part in a tactical meeting, because it's just a very narrow slice of it. So my primary thing is to tell you don't fret about Holacracy, because I don't think it's going to affect you as an administrator. So I hope that this video has been useful. I didn't try to tell you everything you need to know about your job. I've tried to tell you a little bit about what your job is about how to get additional support, about how to learn your job over time by yourself and with others, and in particular, how to get direct active engagement with me as your liaison with the support services part of MKP USA. Thanks a lot. I hope you have a great day, and again, that this has been useful. Take care.